So what we wanted to talk about was the progress of the Tesla bot, right? There's a lot of activities that's been happening recently. A few days ago, Tesla dropped a video of the Tesla bot being able to fold clothes. They made that very clear that that was teleoperated. And a week before that, you had Figure CEO Brett Adcock drop a video of their Figure One robot being able to now autonomously control a coffee machine. And then just this morning, Brett replied back saying, one of these videos is teleoperated and the other one is autonomous. And then this morning, we had two other comments from Elon talking about one, replying back saying that robots will be building robots one day. Seems inevitable, whether Tesla does it or not, replying to Kristen. And in another one, he's replying to Adrian Dittman. Adrian said, it took Boston Dynamics 30 years to achieve what Tesla achieved in one. And then Elon replied this morning saying, 2 years to meet. No, that's because Optimus is now 2 years old. 3 years to beat. So in one more year, it's going to be much better than Boston Dynamics is what he's saying. No acquisitions. Optimus is a startup. So beyond these activities that are happening, there is now a lot of job postings that have been posted, and there's another number of other clues that we're finding to show whether or not the bot seems to be progressing quickly. And that's the debate that we would like to have today, is to see where they're sitting right now, if they've changed their minds or they still think, I think most people, last time I did a survey, they're saying that the Tesla bot will go in scaling next year, 2025. Some of us believe that there'll be some form of Tesla bot in the factories this year. So why don't we start with you, Alexandra? You did a lot of research on the job postings around the bot. Why don't you explain to us what you saw?
Yes, thank you, Herbert. So I try to do on Sunday evenings, not every Sunday evening, but every 2-3 weeks, a check on the career side of Tesla to understand what were the new postings, to understand what came up. So the findings of this Sunday were 4. One, that there are now 73 construction jobs in Sparks. That is really, going for it, very detailed job descriptions. And my speculation was that it's not only batteries and semis, but also bots that are going to be manufactured there. But that's only me speculating. The second finding was that they are now starting to create a supply chain team for Mexico. These were 4 new jobs, all remote still, very detailed as well. So that was interesting. The third block was, what was the third block? Oh yes, that for bots now, and I think that's what's most interesting to your topic today, Herbert, that they are now dividing the bot jobs in 3 categories. It still has the AI autopilot team jobs, but it also has now engineering and manufacturing jobs. So it's getting much more granular. The job descriptions are finer. There's still day and night shift for certain groups. So it's been surprising how this gets more structured. And then the fourth one was one particular job description, which was for a construction job, and it was actually surprising how ambitious. Ambition is probably not the right word, but how precise it was. What type of people they are looking for. And I titled my post, "Working at Tesla isn't for the faint of heart," because it was talking about designing and building infrastructure at record speed, enabling us to scale worldwide. The program schedules push the limits of what is physically possible, execute quickly at high quality, meet our aggressive goals. It was going on and on and on. And so this was one of the very latest job postings. And then at the same time, we had yesterday, Rohan Patel, business development Tesla, announcing that Friday, so before my scrape of the careers website, he had convinced Elon to engage in the development of an AI data center. So I don't know whether this is a coincidence between the Friday and the Sunday. If not, they would have really worked at record speed. But they are obviously very ambitious.
Thanks, Alexandra. So, Jeff, why don't you tell us if you think you've changed your mind based on the recent activities of how fast the bot is progressing?
Yeah, no, I mean, first off, I'm totally bullish on it. I think Tesla's moving. Like I said this all the time. The pace that they're moving at, acceleration, not just constant velocity, is is crazy. A couple of things I wanted to call out from Alexander's work and just kind of overlaying like my lens on a couple of things. One is Tesla's doing this work across multiple shifts. And one of the reasons you do that, like when we were working on the original development of 5G and actually the original development of 4G in mobile, there was an allocation of silicon. There was issues with basically having enough of the silicon, both on the non-RF side and on the RF side. Actually, there was a shortage, especially with 4G. Long story short, we ended up working multiple shifts to accelerate the development of this new platform. And the reason we had to do that is because there wasn't, you didn't have enough of the prototypes around, and it also is a very efficient way to do product development. So why am I bringing this up? They're going to probably make faster, and they have been making faster pace on the development of this project because they're actually taking the prototype assets and they're using them pretty much around the clock to do development and testing work. So they're in this development and testing cycle, and they're not doing it in 8 or 10 hour normal day work cycles or 12-hour work cycles. They're actually probably doing it around the clock, with a 1 or 2 hour break, and they're working weekends. And some people say, well, this is what Tesla always does. I don't know about that. I don't think every project is run 24/7 like that. I think certain projects get into trouble and they do that. But the big call for me is kind of this early on, for them to be working at this pace. I think they're going to make outsized progress. And again, it's a very efficient use of development R&D resources. When you see these graphs and you see these charts, like, why isn't Tesla spending much more money? Look at all these other companies. They spend more money on R&D. It's stuff like this. It's stacking the development effort and doing it 24 hours around the clock. Other companies don't do this. I guarantee you other companies don't do this. They only do it when they get into trouble. The other couple of quick call outs. Tesla, when you look at the requisitions that Alexander has done a great job posting, they have the largest percentage of industrialization type jobs. Industrialization means they actually want to build and scale this project. And you don't bring on supply chain people when you're ready to build. You bring them on, actually pre-initial prototype release, so they can actually sit down, do DFM on the components, do DFM on the actual manufacturing line design, so you get this right from day one. So Tesla's already had manufacturing people on from day one. My guess is they borrowed them from auto, but they're hiring early for this industrialization effort, which tells me that they're in this window where they want to hire people. And by the way, they're putting them in Sparks, Nevada, and that's where the production, probably the first bot production line, is going to be. And they're very serious about getting the production effort going. And that production effort will include the general assembly of the bot and the actuator lines, it sounds like, from the requisitions I'm seeing. And then finally, it looks like there's these supplier industrialization recs that are being opened. First off, the supply chain for Tesla is hiring a bunch of people. I think from my analysis, looking from the outside in, they run a pretty lean and mean shop in supply chain. And really, again, if you look at their R&D effort overall, but it looks like, with bringing up Mexico, with now, really expanding Sparks, they're hiring these industrialization engineers. And what these people are, really quick, is these are Tesla badged people that have expertise in these various commodities, whether it's metals, it's plastics, it's cameras, it's what have you, and they're basically embedded near the supply base. So Tesla requirements, questions about, how is your product, supplier doing in a Tesla factory? What do we need you to do better, supplier? Anything around operations, quality, capability. Those were the supplier industrialization engineers are doing, and Tesla's hiring them in the Mexico area. That was one of the call outs in Alexander's posting. So what you do that in advance of setting up a major manufacturing operation in a various country or continent. So, those are a couple of call outs I wanted to make. In terms of the bot, finally, just your original question, Herbert, until I hear Elon say that, we're on the final design of the bot, for me, that starts a clock of anywhere from, again, it's not conventional, it's Tesla, but it's, could be 9 months, it could be 12 months for this thing going through some prototype iterations on the final design where they're tweaking it, so it can scale. It can pass all these reliability tests. There could be like a 9 to 12 month window. So that's why I say you could have hundreds, you could have dozens or hundreds of bots floating around doing stuff this year. That's not out of the realm. But in terms of this being a real mass production effort, my guess would be some point in 2025, maybe the first half, probably the second half. We'll see.
Okay, I'm going to give the case of why I'm much more bullish now. And I actually am still very much what you're saying. Okay, so I believe that the bot is going to be in a factory this year. It's not going to be thousands. It'll be under 1,000, more than 200. And it's going to be doing some very simple jobs. And I agree with you, mass scaling, very likely early part of next year. Okay, but here's a point that I'm going to share with you guys why I think that I'm much more bullish now than ever. And these are coming directly from the Tesla bot engineers themselves, right? So they dropped the Tesla bot doing the folding the laundry, and Elon very clearly in a thread following saying this is not autonomous, but it will be autonomous at some point. Milan Kovac, who's a Tesla bot engineer, immediately kind of posted reply to that saying increasingly complex tasks through teleoperation. Okay, so he's verifying that that's teleoperation. To one, verify that our current hardware has a dexterity to do those tasks. That's why they did this. It was not here to test the autonomous capability. It was there to test to see if the hands had the dexterity to be able to do these tasks. Then he says, now mostly software and AI work. So in that statement, he's basically saying it has verified that it works. It's now going to be mostly software and AI work is what they're going to work on. And when they do the teleoperation, the reason they're doing it, his second bullet point, collect the data needed to train end-to-end neural nets to do it autonomously, just like they did with the colored blocks sorting and unsorting we've shown last year. So when you need to teach something to be autonomous, you need to first, one of the ways is to do it teleoperated. And the three PhD students who did Mobile Aloha, which is funded by Google, they showed in their tests that it just takes 50 teleoperation activities for a certain task, and then they will able to get that bot to do it autonomously, 80% accuracy rate, right? And Tesla already showed that they could do that with the training for the blocks. And so now they're trying to see, okay, let's teleoperate this to fold the clothes. Okay, that's great. But the other Tesla engineer, Yi Li, then replies and says, yes, this is teleoperated as Elon noted himself. Then he says, but we also started with teleoperation block sorting, not too long before the bot was completely doing it by itself. So what he's trying to tell you is that Optimus is able to fold a shirt. Yes, it's teleoperated, but not too long before the bot's going to be able to do this by itself. So these are directly from the Tesla engineers working on the bots. And what I read there is the bot is pretty close to design locked. Now I know you're gonna debate me, and I know you're right, Jeff. I'm not gonna say it's design locked, but if you look at the Gen 2, this bot looks like it could be design locked, right? It's got there's nothing there. There's no more hanging wires that Scott Walter used to point out. There's no more bulky actuators of the wrist or the hips. It's all been cleaned up, and it's looking like it's working. Now we have heard that the lower extremity is not yet end-to-end neural net, and they need to work on that still. But there are jobs today, pick and place, sorting, just using just the hands, just standing there, you don't need to be walking, that it can already do the job. If you saw that video that they dropped, you'll see 3 or 4 workstations, and 2 of them had the 4680 batteries there, and you had the Gen 2 folding the clothes, you had the Gen 1s still in front of their workstation. So they are able to do something on a table to show that it can actually do the work. So if you think that Gen 2 is close to design lock, if you read into what these 2 Tesla engineers are saying, that yes, it's teleoperated, but eventually we'll be able to train autonomous. If the hardware may go through another iteration, agreed. That could happen. A Gen 3 might be needed before mass scaling. But what we're seeing today with just Gen 2, and they've already shown that it can be trained and it can learn something that is teleoperated, can be learned to be autonomous. You know what I mean? Like they've already shown the power of the brain, they've shown the power of the hardware. We're very close. And so why couldn't you agree that maybe they'll have 10, 20, 30, maybe less than 100 within, 3 months for a year from now? Would they wait to build hundreds before with the Gen 2 that they're going to need to have a Gen 3? But if you read what Milan himself said, right? We just tested to see the dexterity, and it looks like it's just now going to be software AI. So that's my contribution here. Why don't we go to you next, Xander, and then we'll go to Sat.
Herbert, just one quick thing. Sorry, Xander. I mean, we're saying the same thing. Like they can build 50, 100. That's fine. They need more prototypes. That's fine. But I think we're both. You got to hear them. You got to hear Elon or somebody that's connected with that program. And maybe they'll never say this to us. You never know. But what they said on Cybertruck, what they've said on other products is like, hey, we're design locked, and that usually starts a clock. And that's all I was saying in terms of the product development process. So maybe saying the same thing. There's no reason they can't have a bunch more of them built this year. But in terms of, it like starting to hit the bottom line and having meaningful impact, I'm saying, 2025 at the earliest.
And when you say this mass scaling, what is your definition? Are you saying like 1,000 and more early 2025?
No, I'm saying like they're ready to start. They have a revision, like they're going to update the revisions of the hardware of the bot probably for many years to come, just like they do cars. But what they have to do is they have to lock into something and call it recipe number one. That's like, this is mass production recipe one, and we're going to build, a couple 100,000 of these or whatever. They'll do some sort of, my guess is with something brand new like the bot, be similar to the Cybertruck, probably even a smaller scale. And they'll do something called a controlled introduction, where they put very small lots of the product out. They put it very close to themselves, meaning the Tesla factory, just like they released the Cybertruck to employees only in a very small group of people. They'll keep it close. When you keep it close, you keep the data frequency high. And so when you keep the data frequency high, you can detect issues very quickly. You can resolve them quickly before you have a shitload of product flowing out of the factory, so that when the shitload of product starts flowing out of the factory, it has all the latest and greatest. So yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is mass production means is like you turn the line on and you go, but they'll do it in some sort of controlled introduction, just like the Cybertruck is in mass production now, but I would call it in a controlled introduction state still.
Well, we've just had a breakthrough here, Jeff. So you and I have been saying the same thing all along. I agree with you. Mass production, design lock won't happen until the first quarter of next year. But what I've been saying for so long is that there's no reason why you can't have hundreds of the bots this year so that they can do training. You notice that they had 8 bots in that video, and they were all doing training, because it's about, even with Gen 1, they'll use the Gen 1 again, because it's about training it to be able to, learn a task. And they'll have hundreds this year. And I've been saying it can already be in a friggin' factory. We're talking pick and place. And people say to me, not for years. And I say, there's a bot called Digit. It's already working in Amazon's factory. It does a very simple pick and place in an unstructured environment with unstructured locations, but it doesn't have a brain, and it doesn't have, it just has pinchers as hands, paddles as hands, and yet it can grab boxes and move them. And there's no reason why you can't find jobs where it's just sitting on a table and just, picking and places little items from one place to another. That's very simple. Why not? Sort of doing it now.
Yeah. And just so people know, like, I'm not going to name like a particular product, but like when major OEMs do like a new smartphone, depending on the product, but if you think of like some of your favorite smartphones you're probably using right now, they'll build anywhere from 12 to 25,000 pre-production phones before going into mass production. And that's to do all the internal work, all the reliability testing, all the software development, all the hardware development, all the rail testing, all the various aging of the product, the deployment to the field to do testing in various regions on different network infrastructure so it's just, I don't know if people understand the magnitude of that. Like when companies do new like hardware product development, and it's different for different product lines, but I'm just giving you that example. So it's not, to me, I think they're going to have to build a lot of robots and get a lot of data going concurrently before they're ready to go into mass production. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more and more of them as they get closer.
Xander, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm just laughing about this tweet Elon just posted. Pinned to the top of the space, we consider G, F, and Y, but X is just better. I think you guys were on the same page the whole time, and it makes logical sense to me that they would test the hardware. No one tried to scam anyone. I saw some of these comments, even from Tesla bulls, where they're like, "Oh, they tried to put." You could see the hand coming into view, and it's obvious when the robot's arm is extended that hand is. And then they clarified it very quickly. So. To me, it's logical that you would test the hardware to see if it can accomplish the tasks that you're building it for. And as Jeff said, you can do some pre-production units to accomplish your goals, Herbert, of bots being in the factory before you take it to mass scale. I pinned an Elon response to David Holtz. We should be expecting a billion humanoid robots on Earth in the 2040s and 100 billion mostly alien robots throughout the solar system in the 2060s. And of course, Elon says probably something like that, provided the foundations of civilization are stable. So, that's where it's going. Before they go to crazy numbers, you got to start small and make sure that the hardware is built out exactly and is capable of what you set out to build.
Sat, you want to join in?
Yeah, I mean, I want to give a different perspective. Like the robot that you're talking about, Digit, and there's existing robots already. And I've looked at in Japan, there's robots being used in factories. There's one in particular I was looking at, helping making bento boxes, and so they would grab the chicken nuggets and put it into the box basically. But it has paddles, just like you're saying, it has paddles, right? It's a very specific task. It recognizes like an object that's circular and then moves it over. But watching that video where Optimus, whether that's controlled or not, it's like the task in which they're going for, like a folding clothes. It's much more complex because it's not the same folds everywhere. So the training and what they're doing is different. Their design, even externally, the way they designed Optimus and they updated with the fascia with the light, you know where it's going. Whereas Boston Dynamics, I've never seen it like in this modern kind of feel, or they have the external part of the shells. It's always like you see the internals and it's a preset kind of movement. I haven't seen anything recent, so it might be outdated on some of it, but I see a lot of it just pre-programmed kind of thing. Same with FSD related competitors, they map it out beforehand. So the process in which they're doing it and what they're going for is very different. And I think that progress is immense because of that, not because those movements can't be replicated with other robotics, but the way that they're going to use that information and where it's going towards is different.
Exactly. I mean, that's why they're doing humanoid robots. Like when you see Figure and they do this, they showed the demo of the bot autonomously being able to control a coffee machine. And why is that? Well, because you can't, it's not something that anything that's not a humanoid be able to do that. You needed the fingers, if you notice, to grab the little, Keurig K-Pod, put it in the right place. And then even when you put it in, it doesn't fit nicely. So it uses its pinky to kind of keep, maneuvering it till it falls into place. You needed to close the lid and then use your finger to press a button. If you don't have fingers, you can't press those buttons. And so with this kind of skill, a humanoid skill, dexterity, fingers, ability to walk, it can do any job that a human can do, this can do without changing the environment. But there are millions and millions of jobs available for all sorts of different kinds of bots with wheels, bots with different kinds of appendages. There was a video that we played this morning in one of our videos that I did with Hans, where the bot was able to build an IKEA, an IKEA furniture, a chair, and it was able to do everything it needed. Now, this was teleoperated, but they were training it to be able to do this, and it had all sorts of different kinds of appendages on its hands and so forth. Anyways, the point about humanoid is that it can just do any job, and so we're going for general human form factor. And so when this works, the kind of opportunity for this is through the roof, and it's not just specialized for one thing. Matthew, sorry. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm outside, so if it's windy, let me know. But I got a brand new pair of AirPods yesterday, so hopefully my audio is good. One thing that I think no one is really, no one outside the Tesla bubble is really taking into account is the size of the market. The TAM for Optimus. It's literally any job that has any sort of physical, physical component, plus any job that could exist if labor was essentially free. So if you've traveled to a place that has a huge disparity in income levels and a large available workforce, you'll see how much additional labor is being used. So, for instance, if you go to Dubai, you'll see their labor is everywhere. Every place is beautifully landscaped because landscaping hours are essentially free. People there might earn less than a couple dollars an hour. You can order. You can go into 7-Eleven and order a Coke for $1 and have it delivered to your apartment for no additional charge because labor is virtually free. So imagine if labor was free, how much more things you would do around your house, your town, your city, your country. That's so like if we think the total TAM of labor is X, if labor was free, the TAM of labor is like 10X the current TAM, which is, or maybe not even 10X, maybe 100X or 1,000X.
Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, it's massive. So getting back to the topic of Tesla bot progress, right? Let me just bring it up another perspective here. 2 years ago, Tesla was not doing bots. Boston Dynamics was able to show a bot that they've been working on for 30 years, but this bot can now do parkour and flips and very impressive. In 2 years, you saw Gen 2 at this point. Why were they able to go from a human in a costume to this clunky, Gen 1 to now a very sleek Gen 2 with finger sensors, and they showed that it has the ability to do things autonomously by training first teleoperation, but also through videos in actions out. Why? Because Tesla has, they've got everything you need to do Tesla bot, right? You've got the manufacturing skills to create the actuators was the real breakthrough to create an actuator that is small, that is effective, that is cheap to make. That was the thing that was holding back bots for so long. You've got that. You've got the AI and the data centers, the supercomputers. You've got the engineers, and then you've got the end-to-end AI was another massive breakthrough to be able to give to teach these bots something and for them to take action. But the whole hardware side of it, 2 years, and you see that Tesla's able to do this because they've been doing it in SpaceX, they've been doing it in Tesla, they've got the factories, and then they wanted to make this bot scalable. And that's why it was delayed. So last year in March, they came out and showed the Gen 1, and then many people, including myself, were saying, oh my God, this bot can now be available in a factory. And then when it didn't come available in October, people pointed their fingers going, you see, you were wrong. Now, I was not out there calling 1,000 bots. I didn't say 500 bots, but people said, oh, you were wrong. Why was I wrong? I was wrong because Elon said we had to design our own actuators and we want it to be, by November, we believe it will be scalable. It'll be ready for mass scale in November. So that's why it was delayed, because they wanted to build something that was mass scale. Now you see in December, they showed the Gen 2, the actuators are now to the point that they can be mass scale. And they reuse these actuators through 11 areas in the body. And so they wanted to make sure that, all the fingers are the same size so they can, just it's all mass scale. They don't have to have multiple SKUs for all this. That's what they've been designing for. That's why it was slightly delayed. But now we're at the point where the bot can be ready for mass scale. Maybe some more tweaks this year, like you said. They'll test it out some more in factories and so forth. But, the speed by which Tesla moves is so fast because they already have built this for 20 years since the company was alive with SpaceX engineers helping to be able to take this where we're at today. Alexander, did you want to jump in again? And we don't have Sat wants to have her hands up, and we haven't asked Tesla Yoda to join in yet. So Sat.
Yeah, I just want to add to what you're saying because of that progress part is a big question that I always wanted to answer. Also, is that I'm an artist and I do design stuff too. So if you don't know what your objective is and it's like free for all, like it's a white blank sheet, a canvas, and you don't have an objective, you could do anything for forever. You could do details forever, but if you don't know what you're doing or what your objective is, you're not going to get there very fast. And frankly, I feel like Boston Dynamics is like a research company more so than making a robot for production. And so you could go on for decades and have these amazing stuff happen with the robots, but it's never really going into something. Whereas Tesla's like they have a very specific, hyper-focused reason why they have Optimus, and it's meant for the factory and build anything on the factory line, basically. So there's this focus that you can eliminate all these other excess stuff if you know exactly what you want it for. And I think that's part of the reason why they're faster.
Sorry, Jeff, I just want to jump in right away because Boston Dynamics just dropped a video just literally within a month ago. And they went through their history of what they were working on. And they've already been very clear. I don't think people know this. They are not designing the Boston Dynamics humanoid bot. It wasn't designed for scale. It wasn't designed for them to create and sell it. They're not selling the humanoid bot. And so in their history, what they described was they created the humanoid bot to show people that they have this skill to do this. Then they saw they wanted to make a product that they can sell. So they created this bot that had wheels in a factory. And they did that for the next 3 years. Then they found out that this bot with wheels, counterweight and everything, wasn't still the best thing. And so then they created another bot, which is called Stretch, which is very similar to one of those industrial robot, KUKA robots, stationary and able to be able to pick and place. That's what they're selling today. Then they created a Spot, which is a dog robot, four-legged, and it has an actual job, right? It's security, video, but all of this is still operated by a human. It's like a drone. There's a human pilot still maneuvering this. And if you look very carefully, everywhere in that factory, there are QR codes everywhere. And so that bot is not driven by any AI yet. It's looking at the QR code, then it knows when I see this code, I'm going to take these actions because I've got it pre-programmed. I know that this is stairs and I'm going to walk down the stairs. And there's a humanoid that's controlling it, just like you would a remote control car. That's what they're building now. Having said that, at the CES conference just 2 weeks ago, NVIDIA announced Isaac, which is their robotics platform that they're selling to 12 different robots, of which one is Boston Dynamics. So now Boston Dynamics has a partner that can help give them that brain, that intelligence, the testing environment, the chips, and the data warehouse to be able to do this, to learn and educate. And many other robot companies like Sanctuary, including Digit, they're also partners with NVIDIA too. So these guys that did not have a brain now have a partner through NVIDIA. So maybe Boston Dynamics will now eventually do it, but they're behind because that humanoid bot that you saw them talking about, Atlas, is nowhere near for mass scale. That is just not in any way. It's so big and bulky and so forth. So sorry, who did I cut off there? Jeff or?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to expand on this whole thing of why Tesla. You're going to hear about all these different things, like NVIDIA's got a platform and they're giving it to 12 different partners. Well, what are the 12 different partners doing? The 12 different partners are giving requirements back into NVIDIA. And then NVIDIA's got a process. Well, this is what partner 1 wants. This is what partner 11 wants. This is what partner 7 wants. Well, when you have an end-to-end operation under one leader, and I'm not saying that leader is Elon, but Elon has a bot leader, I would imagine, and he's ultimately kind of the final decision maker on this stuff. I can't begin to overemphasize for the audience what that does for development speed, what it does for focus, what it does for cost structure, what it does for, I mean, you name it. I'm sure they started this program and Elon said the bot will cost no more than this in COGS. And and then he set his team on a path, and then his team comes back and will say, hey, we want this functionality, we want this, we want that. Elon would take the conversation down to the laws of physics and say, well, do you really need to do this? Is there a supply chain that we need to create on our own? Like, these are the conversations that they're having. When it's a distributed network and it's amongst many different partners, They're not always having those conversations. NVIDIA may not be on the same page. NVIDIA may have no idea. They just want to get their 70% margin of selling their silicon into Boston Dynamics. That's what they want. So if you have this whole concept of entropy, and like there's a fixed amount of energy that can be done to develop one of these projects end to end, the least amount of entropy used and the most amount of value is going to be done when you have an end-to-end development process under one roof, under one leader, super focused. So when Elon says something like 2 years to match them, 1 year to beat them, that was a directive given to the team, and they were given vectors on functionality, they were given vectors on cost, they were given vectors on development timeline, they were given multiple different things. But at the end of the day, there was a vision behind that robot, and there's a mission, and there's one company doing that end-to-end work. It's the same thesis for FSD. This is why you're seeing all this burnout happening right now, whether it's Argo AI, whether it's Cruise, whether it's Chinese supplier 1 through 10. I mean, there's impressive YouTube videos you're going to see and various clips of things, just like you're seeing various bot clips. But then when you pull the covers up and say, okay, show me your cog structure for your autonomous driving program. What's on the client side? What's on the network infrastructure side? Do you have any human intervention? What's the cost per ride? And all of a sudden, these things start shriveling up, and they're not real. They're losing, 1 or 2 billion every 6 months. So, why am I saying all this? The real core thesis is that Tesla has probably put themselves in the best position to have an end-to-end development, and time to market approach, right cost structure, right functionality. It's very hard for smartphone makers to scale up and make something of this size because of all the complex movements and mass involved. And it's very hard for large, device makers like automakers to make something this small and this dexterous. Tesla's really in a sweet spot. Will they be the only bot manufacturer on Earth? No. You will have different bots of different characteristics, different capability and performance. But when you're talking about maximum capability, the usage of AI, principles, foundations, and actual, use in the product, and the capability at a certain price point, they're going to be the best game in town just by the way that they're actually organized. That was kind of my point.
Alexandra, were you going to jump in?
Sorry, I have a problem with my mic. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. I actually wanted to jump in earlier, so I'm sorry. I'm probably going to interrupt a little bit the subject Jeff just brought up. You were asking why Tesla is in such a particularly strong position. First of all, the first 2 AI days were great recruitment days. I do believe there's another one coming. And we saw a couple of graduate students from Stanford and Berkeley and whatever announcing that they're joining Tesla's AI team, and they showcased what they did in their master's program with walking bots and whatever. So they do. So the first point is they do recruit the best engineers. I'm not so sure about the AI programmers. I think they have a couple of companies they want to go to, including Tesla. But I do believe if you're more into mechanics and engineering, Tesla is in this field of robotics your first choice. So strong recruitment. Second is, as you explained, just incredible innovation and access to raw material and all the pieces. And the third one, and I just want to stress that so much, is that use case. If you have a use case, and Seth actually developed that very nicely, if you know what you're going for, if you have identified the job you want to replace, it is much easier to build a bot. I mean, give me a break, but these people putting a pod in a Keurig machine, it's all cute, but that's not going to save anybody, right? So if you have the right use case, where the use case is straight away in an industrial environment and has a money value to it, it's a completely different motivation, and time, which is always of essence, becomes much better used than if you're just, I mean, I don't want to call it joking around because it's not joking around, but we saw what you very well explained with Boston Dynamics. If you're only on the research level, I mean, you can go down any rabbit hole, and then in the end it turns out to be a dog or whatever. But if you're straight away in a use case, It's just a completely different focus. And I think that's what is the strongest point for Tesla.
Yeah, I interviewed Chris Camillo, and he's an investor, and we'll drop that video on Saturday or Sunday. And he thinks that Tesla's going to be a $10 trillion company by 2030, all because of the Tesla humanoid bot. And his analysis shows that just 1.5 million bots is enough with a 80 PE ratio, should be able to get us there. Now, what he was pointing out, this 1.5 million bots it doesn't have to displace any human jobs. There are so much job disparity between demand and supply out there, and he went through 8 different categories of farming and construction and security, where there's just demand for human jobs for people, but that's nobody's filling it. Can you create 1.5 million bots by 2027 at mass scale? Tesla can do this. And I think no one here is going to debate us, right? No one here is going to say that Tesla cannot create 1.5 million bots. They might say not by 2027, maybe 2028, 2029. But the idea that Tesla has the skills to have a factory to create 1.5 million. And another side, if you look at that video again of the Tesla bot doing the folding the clothes, there's 2 workstations where there's 4680 batteries there. And there was a Gen 1 sitting on top of those, in front of those tables. And so why are they playing around with 4680 batteries when Scott Walter says, well, the 4680 batteries for the cars are probably already fully automated. But Hans Nelson said, maybe it's for 4680 batteries for bots. Because the bots themselves needs to pack that into a small container. And so this could be training them to, pick and place 46 batteries, put them to a container so that you can get bots making bots. I don't know. It's very interesting. It made me think, but it's like, why would you teach a bot to do building bots now? That seems to be an activity that you would teach much later. Like you were saying, Alexander, there's so many jobs within a factory today that Tesla can train a bot to do something, and it will have an immediate impact to Tesla. And that's why they want to do this. An immediate impact, can work 3 shifts a day, and you don't have to pay them, the benefits and time off and all those issues with humans. And they're probably, I keep bringing this up, but there is a clip that I played many times with Tom Ju at Investor Day saying that when Giga Mexico is built, the one way that they're going to continue to improve its productivity, he said, is imagine if there's 10,000 employees, what if we had 5,000 humanoid optimists there? He said that out of his own mouth. So, they have plans to have 5,000 humanoid bots at Giga Mexico. So there's many jobs that it can do, and they have an immediate solution. They don't have to sell this to anybody. They just use it within themselves, show that they can reduce this. What's this going to do to car manufacturing? What it's going to do to car auto gross margins? It's going to have some impact, at least, right? Anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, I do want to add one thing about more specifically. One of my product design professors was saying he was designing like a electric screwdriver thing, and it has that light. And he had, as a designer, he had like different designs, and he put a blue LED light. And then the manufacturer came back to him saying, "Could you redesign that just to change the color to white?" And the reason why was because that blue LED light costs a couple dollars more than just a white light. But imagine if you didn't make that choice at that time when it's a drawing board phase, then you go into production, and midway you realize you're eating away your gross margin because you picked a more expensive light that was not relevant. So if you're focused on like what the bot is made for, and they're going to make 20,000, 100,000 of them, and very specifically, even in the research phase and these prototypes that they're testing out, they're going to make decisions based on how much cost is going to be when you multiply that by 100,000. Whereas if you're doing like a research project, or you're just trying something out, like Boston Dynamics, these small projects, and they kind of don't have a focus, then you have many projects. You can do whatever you want with it because you're not thinking about the cost of it. So you could put together something, do dances or jump parkour stuff, but it's never going to go anywhere because it's not realistic to make it in any volume and make it as a real business. So even on the drawing board where there's designing this stuff and you see this design changes, It's not just like, hey, it looks aesthetically better. It's that they're thinking about the cost at the same time the design, and that's why it's significant when I see these design changes that's happening externally.
So I'll get to you, Scott, right now, but I just want to make another point. Why did they show the Tesla bot folding clothes? Why the
Oh,
folding clothes?
for
Okay,
me, Herbert. You know it was from me.
Yes, yes,
Irony in
exactly.
you
It
had
was
a
my
tweet.
mama.
You had a tweet, Alexander, that went viral saying, "I want you to fix it." Okay, but come on, we all agree, all of us on the panel, that Tesla's not going to sell this to homes, and no, it's not going to take over your laundry next year, two
What?
years, 3 years. Not right now. Why did they choose the folding clothes? Because the reason they're doing folding clothes is because they're not testing it for a use case that they're going to sell. They're testing it to show you that the dexterity of the hardware is enough to the point that can actually fold clothes. That's what they were doing it for. Now, what after they do that demo, they're going to then start using the actual jobs that it's going to do. That's what they're going to train it for. But that's my point. It's like they're not going to sell this tomorrow. That's not the job. The job is factories, and there's going to be many jobs that they're going to do for that. That's my position. That's my point. Scott, do you want to jump in?
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me up. Just first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for all the work you do for the Tesla community. You guys should give them a hand.
Well,
We really
thank you.
appreciate the show,
Oh,
and it's just a great spirit. Always
appreciate you,
enjoy
Scott.
it.
Thanks,
So
Scott.
I posted a post in the comments for the space here about the potential of the bot for manufacturing companies. We were sitting together talking about CapEx and process improvements yesterday when Elon posted the video. And it was interesting how it came up to discuss, because really most people don't know about this thing, what it could be used for in our factory. And we have many, I would say somewhere near $30 to $40 an hour cost. That's not what they're paid, but what the employee costs the company to have between uniform and taxes and insurance and all those things, parking space, locker, everything you have to do to have an employee. We probably could have one of those bots replace about 400 hours every month of work as two people. So really 800 on the floor. And when you think about what you're paying them, not just what you're paying them, but also the speed and the accuracy, removing like the superpowers of Optimus, right? If you've ever used the measuring app on your phone to check and measure up your room or anything like that, Optimus is going to be able to measure things with its ocular capabilities. So for QC, for checking even the vehicles in the factory, panel gaps, all those things, but also, is this acceptable to put in the vehicle? Tesla can use those things right away. As a consumer, as a manufacturing consumer, $10,000 a month leasing that bot is I'm going to 3x my ROI on that. So I could see Tesla, like, I think our models are way out of date compared to what they could actually get for the bot. And I'd like to throw it out. I really hope they never sell this ever. I hope they lease the bot. They maintain control of their technology and their software, their hardware, all of it. I hope they keep everything in-house for manufacturing, because this thing is so unbelievably valuable. Like, think about, okay, folding clothes yesterday. If you go to Old Navy, there's just a person walking around folding clothes and putting them back all day long. That's all they do. And if you walk up to them and say, "Do you know where I could find this?" they would point you to it. An Optimist could do that instantly. And they just proved that yesterday. So I think the use case is unbelievable for this thing.
Yeah, but so the factory, right? I did a video with Scott Walter, and I showed him a video that in Shanghai, Giga Shanghai, they allowed a media host walk through the entire Giga Shanghai, and they videotaped it. And as they were walking through, you can see jobs in the factory This is Scott Walter's background, by the way. He sells, these KUKA kind of robots, the fixed robots to factories. And as we were walking by, he goes, "See that guy? That can be replaced. Can be replaced. That can be replaced." One of the guys, his job was to pick this metal piece that he can carry, but I don't know, 2x4 piece of metal. He grabs it from one location and he puts it into this caged window, and then the big KUKA robot grabs it and puts it into the car. Then he would go and do it again. And as he entered into the cage, he had to press a button to let so the green light turns on. That allows him to be safely going into that cage and then putting the thing. It goes back and forth, back and forth. And one time he made a mistake. He forgot to press the button. And then so when he walked in, there was an alarm, and we could see that in the video. And then Scott was going, "See that? That was a mistake." Humans would continue making these kind of mistakes. Bots wouldn't. But that job could be replaced now. And as you go down this video, he can say that job can be replaced. That job can be replaced. There's so many in the factory today. Go ahead, Scott.
Just to follow up on that, our philosophy, I think, is similar to Tesla's in that we're not looking to replace jobs. And I think that Elon has mentioned this as well. We're looking for an unlimited economy. And because we're a growing company, we're looking for how can we grow without just adding unnecessary labor. And so we want to be able to create higher revenue with lower costs. And that means hiring the right people, but also not hiring needless people. So, when we're discussing our capex and what we want to do we also have robots that are, loading machines and checking things and changing tools and all those things. And that's just a normal manufacturing company. But the best companies are not looking to replace people. They're looking to be able to grow without adding extra people. So I don't think people should be afraid of Optimus taking their job. In a lot of cases, what it's going to do is it's going to allow companies to grow and pay their current employees better because they're going to have higher revenue and they're going to have lower costs.
Who wants to go next?
I can go. I was just curious about like AI safety with regards to like someone like stealing a robot and programming it to do other things besides like what it was intended to do. Anyone has any thoughts on that kind of stuff?
Anybody have thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think that's top of mind for Elon is just, first off, on the Tesla side, on the auto side, they have these events around, hacking the vehicle. And anytime that somebody comes, up with a way to hack into the vehicle, they give the person a reward and then they go plug the hole. So they kind of have a good process around that. And it's top of mind for him. And the second thing that's top of mind for him is AI safety is like, hey, when this switch flips on, like, where is this data set coming from? Like, how does this thing think? Is it meant to do good, in the world? Is there a localized off switch on the actual bot itself? And my understanding, the answer to that is yes. So yeah, I think it's a good point you're raising. I think it's also top of mind for Elon. It actually, I think it's bleeding into this, this whole conversation around control of the company as well, which is, to make sure like this technology doesn't get into, what he perceives are the wrong hands.
And I think Elon's repeated several times, right, that these bots can't be operated centralized operation. It needs to be local. And so, you can't let one entity, one bad mouth, actor control all the bots that are out there and then, tell them to order 66, right? In the Star Wars language, you can't do that. This is going to be very local. And then each bot you can have, if you take a close look, you'll see that every bot has this red button. And we can't find it in the Gen 2, but all the Gen, you can see this red button that you can press and you can take over the bot as you need to stop it immediately. Go ahead, Sat.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, there's concern for that, but I think that's like usually a little blown out of the circumstances because that's what they said about the Model S when it's basically a computer on wheels. So FSD, that's a software program, but people aren't hacking into it and then try to resell that stuff or whatever. You don't see successful programs like FSD. There's nothing like it still. And if you have that skill set, it's like a very high level of barrier of entry to even have the skills to even hack it. So it would be more useful and meaningful to get paid to make something than rather try to hack it. So I think there's a higher threshold than just, hey, I'm going to go rob a piece of clothing. I think it's a lot higher barrier.
Go ahead, Emmett.
Dovetailing off of your comment and stats, multi-factor authentication plus geolocation really minimizes the opportunity. And with Tesla's skills, as hacks do happen, even if they're internal and no one in the outer world even knows about them, they'll be able to refine it better and better. So generally speaking, I think it's a low risk, although I'm sure it's something they're working on.
Okay, let's get back to TeslaBot progress. Alexander, if you're still there, I think you are the most bullish. I got scared away because people are just pretty mean out there. If you say something and then they don't
Oh,
realize
they're
what you're
mean
actually
to
saying.
me as well. They're mean to
I
me
guess
as well.
you have more of a backbone than I do. But go ahead and shock the audience here what you're thinking.
Well, I think that we will actually see 1,000 bots already this year and probably even in the next 6 months. I've said this before and I'm still there. I don't think
Why do you say that?
I don't think it is building the bots that's the issue. I think once I find Generation 2 already looking very good, and knowing the speed of light at which they're going, I wouldn't be surprised that we have a Generation 3 very quickly. Well, the delta, the time between the videos is getting shorter and shorter. A couple of days when there was CES and I had all this crap from Vegas from the CES posts, and I was sending a tweet to Elon saying, send us a new, I'm talking German now, my gosh, send us a new bot video, and I was joking, and yesterday there it was. So I just see the progress so much, the hiring quantity and quality so high, working day and night, working weekend shifts. They're not going to slow down, and I don't. What will be a purpose of waiting? The one thing that Elon knows is time is of essence in this bot market. There'll be many bot producers in the world, but there will only be so many that have a real use case and the profitability that the Tesla bots will have. So the sooner we have them, the quicker it comes. I expect him to address a lot of the end of January speech, his outlook for 2024, to the bot situation.
Yeah, and I'm actually predicting that the next bot demo is going to be the brain, right? So they're going to do yet another thing to show autonomy, that they taught it to do something and it learned it right away. It's going to happen. It's going to drop within a month, I think, like you said. The reason they need to do this for twofold. One is if you were Tesla and you have dollars of money in the bank and you've got all these priorities in front of you, which one would you prioritize? Has the greatest impact to all business lines, including auto. And so if you've got the bot this close, why wouldn't you money, top priority, get the bot, could be the brains, the AI, could be the rate limit stuff. But if you listen to Brett Adcock, the CEO of Figure, he himself just kind of announced, a couple of weeks in his tweets, he was saying that he was shocked that actually the AI itself, which he thought was going to take the longest, is actually progressing quicker than they realized, and that's why they were able to drop that video. That they were able to train it to be able to do this, to be able to do the coffee machine. That was just a demo. We don't know if it can do it repeatedly on a consistent manner. But if you were Tesla, why wouldn't you just throw everything at this? And that's what I hope that they're doing. And so, this is what they need to do: big data centers, most chips, get the dojo out, but build the bots and get it out there. And then, the big question I think people are needing to understand is like, do you need 1,000 bots so that if the 1,000 bots are out there interacting with the world, that gets you real world data that then accelerates its ability to learn? Or do you just need to feed it videos and that's enough? And if that's the case, you don't need 1,000 bots. Feed it a bunch of videos, teach it whatever it needs to
And
learn,
Herbert,
and then scale later.
Yeah, and Herbert, everybody seems to forget that they're making all this progress for FSD. So video neural net is solved or is very close to be solved. Nobody else has done this work. So we have the feeling that Tesla started at the same time than everybody else. Well, on the mechanics of the bots, they started much later, as we saw today with his quote on the timeline for Boston Dynamics. But on using vision and making off vision decisions, they are light years ahead. And I know that Baidu and BYD and all that are all working on FSD as well. I know, but it's not comparable. It's not the same. Then it's not the same advantage and the same time that and data quantity that Tesla has at its disposal.
Go ahead, Emmett.
The number 1,000 to me isn't the key thing. The milestone rings that I'm thinking about from different use case standpoints. So one of the use cases, I don't believe the only one, but one of the use cases I believe they're monitoring is specifically the Nevada plant and roles that they're having issues getting enough employees for. I remember what their original goals for that factory, and I think they expected production and volumes to be 4 to 5x whatever they peaked at. And if there are specific roles that the bot can do in a cost-effective manner in the next 1 to 3 months that will help production overall, I think there'll be a team focused on that, and they'll iterate to put that bot in place, make that effective gap filled by that robot, and expand those types of paths on top of the things you guys have been talking about. So those types of milestone rings factor into it. And that's when I think we'll start hitting larger milestones, because it's going to be factually, from a manufacturing standpoint, impactful. And there's an earlier question you'd asked in terms of the bottom line and when will the general market start to notice it. I think it will be when there are enough factories, so they're not just in Texas and Nevada, but they start being in every Tesla factory and perhaps expanding to other Elon Musk universe factories, that there'll be a tipping point where there'll be a material enough impact on the income that they'll have to mention it in one of the quarterly or the annual statements. And then Wall Street and the analysts their light bulb's going to go off and their head's going to explode.
Hey, Jeff, I was going to ask you, thank you, Emmett, for that, because you just brought up something very interesting. Don't they make 4680 batteries in Nevada? Isn't that where the Tesla bots are being built, as you've been saying? So, and then we saw in the video that there's a bunch of 4680 batteries there. If there's some way that Tesla bot can actually help build 4680 batteries, isn't that one of the greatest ways to accelerate, because batteries are the rate limiting step, you can make it cheaper, and so forth. What's your thinking about that, Jeff?
Not the battery. The most automated thing that's done at Tesla is actually the battery manufacturing. If you ever see the video clips of the 4680 factory that Tesla shows, you don't see people in them. Are there people in them? Yes. Are there material and warehouse operations? Sure, but that's not the 4680. So yeah, I don't view it as that you need Tesla bots to scale to get 4680s uncorked and get it to the scale we need. There's other technical challenges that are driving it. So, but there are other places. So my view and my experience in manufacturing is, if you were to hover above a Tesla automobile factory, like 5,000 feet above the factory, and look down, and you drew a mental outline of the factory, where the bots will go in that outline. Like, you have the furthest edges of the factory, that's where the bots will start, and then they'll eventually move inward towards the factory. So what's on the outer perimeter of the factory is material inbound, quality visual sorting, optical sorting of material that can be sorted. And then you also have inbound warehouse logistics, the movement of boxes, the breakdown of boxes into feeding the material carriers that actually go to the production line. And then the other thing you have in the outer edge of the factory is final inspection of vehicles. You've got boxing and warehouse operations. Think of the Tesla shop. Think of other things that need to be boxed up and shipped. So yeah, it'll start in the outer perimeter, and then it would slowly move its way into actual assembly steps and general assembly. But that's how I would see it if I were.
Very brilliant, Jeff. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Because wouldn't you, if you were to implement the Tesla bot, you wouldn't necessarily want to put it into a line, right? That if it makes a mistake, it's not that accurate, it'll stop the whole production. You'll want to test it out first in things that are not very risky. And so I like the way you described that on the outer side. That makes
what companies do with a robot, not to get like overly wonky, but any piece of equipment you put on a line, you do something called a gauge repeatability and reliability study, or gauge R&R. And what you're doing there is you're trying to actually understand the repeatability and reproducibility of that piece of equipment on the manufacturing line and what its variation is. And you have a maximum allowable variation based on the tolerance analysis you've developed on that product and how to assemble it. So what you want is you want to take any new piece of equipment, you want to get on the line, you want to understand its reproducibility and reliability. You want to understand what percentage of that variability is due to the actual device you're building, because the device you're building has variation. And then what's the variation that's introduced by the equipment or the bot itself? So they'll have a process, just like they put a KUKA robot or a Fanuc robot on the line, they'll have a process to understand the reproducibility and capability of the bot before it goes on the line. Just won't like roll out there. So Tesla's great at this, and they're like I said, this is a very natural thing for them to do. Like they qualify robots all day and night, and they bought a company that designs and builds robotics for the industrial space, and now they're taking that and converting a lot of those processes to the humanoid form. So yeah, you won't. I don't worry about like bots going haywire. I think they'll have the capability and control to understand when a bot goes out of control. And this could be a whole different space. But like once these bots become interconnected, and all of a sudden like the vision and like what the eyeballs on a bot are seeing relative to them doing one particular assembly, and then it going down the end of the line, and they're doing functional test, and like, hey, the cars that have this functional test performance of X, when I go look at the screw torque placement that's done by bot number 4, I realize they're all kind of turned in this one direction. Or I realize that the cable routing is going like this. And all of a sudden, they're going to be able to take massive amounts of data and say, wow, I can actually improve the yield of the product at the end of the line, functionally tested, if I see these subtle changes in assembly. And then immediately the bots will, like, they should be talking to each other and self-adjusting real time. There's already camera optics in manufacturing that are doing this, but the problem right now is the data goes up, and then it's got to be analyzed by somebody, and then somebody has to go in and do manual intervention into the line. But I would imagine a point in time when the bots are actually talking to each other and self-correcting. So this could be its own space.
You promised you weren't going to be wonky, but you went wonky. Yeah. But I appreciate it. That was brilliant. Go ahead, Ted.
Hey, so agree with everything Jeff said, but I just want to mention that for Tesla, this having the Tesla bot is logical for Tesla only because of Musk Industries and the fact that the company itself is vertically integrated. So for me, the way that I kind of envision this is the Tesla bot system or ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be essential to getting full self-driving to 100% complete and increasing the safety net, only because people have a lot of weird stuff in their houses, and with vision and image recognition, like this can account for things that we may not see on the road 99% of the time. So I say that as number one. Number two, Tesla's unique in the sense that they can actually test the bot in so many different applications that Boston Dynamics and other robotics companies can't really do. So case in point, if I were to have the Tesla bot and I'm trying to test like the tactile features that we saw yesterday with folding a shirt, the next logical step is, can I have this bot unroll and recycle a 4680 cell in Sparks, Nevada, right at Redwood Materials? Yes, you can, because of JB. Can I have this bot in specifically dangerous situations where I don't have to pay more for a human and I can also get to test various things? Yes, you can, due to the Boring Company, Tesla Construction, as well as the refinery and all the other things that Tesla's doing. So it's a logical progression for the company, but it is uniquely Tesla. And I think a lot of this gets really lost in the lines. And I think somebody brought it up two speakers ago. Um, the secret sauce is really going to be getting this thing to market in a way that makes sense business wise, economically, and most importantly, also it's more feature complete because of all the different industries it could get mess around in.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted. Let's go down the panel here, and I want to ask the question, what's the next thing that we're going to hear from Tesla regarding the Tesla bot? Is it a demo? Is it some sort of, a milestone that's achieved? Why don't we start with you, Xander?
I was gonna say start with Jeff. His answers are always spot
Okay,
on.
I'll go down the line here from my view. Go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry,
What's the next
question.
what's the next thing we're going to see, and when? Is it a demo? Is it the AI day? Is it some sort of activity that we're going to see? A
It sounds
milestone?
like they're listening. It sounds like they're listening to Alexandra. I mean, she said she wanted it to fold laundry, and they
No.
they prioritize that.
Nope. Not going to happen.
I love you, Jeff. Thank you for giving me your special role.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the next demo is going to be, but they're definitely focused on the dexterity of the robot. Maybe it's going to be robots. Maybe it's going to be two robots working on an operation together. It could be a number of different things. But yeah, you are starting to see more of them in videos, and I think what we've seen is this progression of it being able to logically infer. There's things it's doing tethered and untethered. So I think the next demo could be kind of some sort of bot to bot interaction where there's some sort of logic involved or exchange between the two. So I think it could be. And I think they've showed the dexterity, and now it's really getting more and more into the brain power. But they can still keep showing dexterity stuff. The folding laundry was interesting. So, but I think more into the actual brain.
Go ahead, Xander.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to predict what they will show. I guess the question becomes is what is the highest priority for them to solve? We're seeing the dexterity, but is it something beyond that, or linking the feet with the hands? So, maybe that.
Alexandra?
I think the next good information we'll get is end of January from Elon, not on the earnings call, but after the 10K when he does his presentation. I think he will give us the road plan, what is planned in the coming months and years. And we will see more and more videos. I'm not sure they're going to go with my ironing idea all the time, but I'm really pleased it is more than just, gadget little functions. I want them to show industrial cases. I liked the cubes. I liked the egg. And it's just going to get better and better. Remember, he promised us that it will thread the needle. So I hope we're seeing that soon as well.
Hey, Sat?
I think they were showing these kind of videos because it's relatable to everyday life. But behind that, you can see how it's applicable to the factory. But I think they're going to do something that's applicable to our daily lives and relatable. I mean, there were some parts of the earlier videos that they were doing some kind of yoga related moves. So I think even something that's maybe how durable the robot would be. So I think there could be that kind of stuff, or showing a different aspect of the feature. Maybe it has more power, durability, or strength. But I think it's going to be an activity that's relatable, like carrying the egg over. That's very, very difficult to do. and delicate. So I think they could also show durability, strength, or other stuff. But I think it's gonna be something like everyday activity that we all can relate to.
Okay, Emmett.
Obviously, threading the needle's gone. So coming up with a second one. I very much want to tap off of what Sat said, and I was trying to brainstorm because they've done out of the box things. The egg was very different than anything else they'd done before. Yoga was unexpected when it came out, and then similarly, folding clothes was unexpected. So ironing would be cool, but I think that's probably too close to folding clothes. I'm trying to remember if I've already seen the Tesla bot stick in a chest a supercharger outlet and hang it back up. Something like that would be cool, would be practical that people could relate to, especially if you've got robo taxis going around. Yeah, that's what comes to my mind immediately.
Okay, let me answer it. I think that let me just start it this way. Okay, so we're talking about Tesla bot progress, right? Who here was not shocked when they dropped the Gen 2 robot? We were all shocked. We were all going, "Oh my God, I can't believe that this came and look how incredible it looks." Who here was not shocked when they dropped that video of the block sorting? Weren't we all kind of impressed and going, we didn't realize that the bot can already do that now autonomously, right? And then who here wasn't shocked when they showed that this fingers in this, folding the clothes? Maybe some of us were not totally shocked because it was teleoperated, right? So this is a company that's dropping things ahead of schedule. That's my point that I wanted to point out earlier. That this people are still, I think many of us are PTSD, right? Is that the right word? With Robotaxi, and we're afraid to be optimistic about the bot because we've learned that Tesla is when they say 2 weeks, it turns out to be 2 years. But the Cybertruck is finally out. The Tesla Semi is finally out, but it's another year before it can go into mass scale. All those things. 4680 slow down. Robotaxi famously every year we think it might be coming and it doesn't. So we're all very, very careful. Don't get your hopes up. But in terms of the bot, it's coming sooner and sooner, sooner and faster. So there's going to be a video drop before what you had said, Alexander, which I think your answer was fantastic, right? When Elon does his presentation, he's going to talk about robotics AI. He's already positioned Tesla as a robotics AI company. He's going to solidify that, and it's going to give very specific milestones or goals that they're trying to achieve, hopefully in 2024. So I think we're going to be shocked at what's going to come next, and it's going to be a demo, and it's going to be a demo showing the brains and so forth. So, yeah, let's ask the digital habitats. Chris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. I had a quick question for Jeff. Can he give me some insights on the differences between manufacturing Optimus and a conventional vehicle in terms of time, potential costs? How short an overall, if it's 40 seconds to build a car in Shanghai, how long is it going to take to build an Optimus? Because that's like velocity of capital conversation, right? So I'll leave it to you.
I think Jeff just dropped off, and unfortunately, I think we're going to go ahead. Oh, hold on. He's just requesting to speak again. There he is. Hold on. Jeff, are you there? Did you hear the question? Yes.
I
Go
got
ahead.
disconnected. I charge a lot of money for that question, by the way, to answer that question.
You do.
Yes. But it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, the click rate of the product through the factory is a function of the assembly story, how it's designed, and the capital structure in the factory. So this thing's going to be, in short, it's going to be significantly faster to build. It looks like they're going to do a tremendous amount of vertical integration with things that aren't normally conventionally built, done in a factory, doing robots, and they're not going the sub-assembly route. They may do things internally, and they may also do things concurrently on the outside. But they've definitely got a cost structure set up. They've got the velocity that they need. These lines are going to be shorter, smaller in structure versus obviously building an automobile. So there's going to be this is actually, I wrote a tweet about this. This is a real sweet spot for Tesla, because I think it's going to be really difficult for companies that build large products to shrink down and build something like a humanoid robot with the kind of the capability and flexibility of Tesla, because Tesla builds smaller devices today. Tesla, and actually, you look at some of the modules that are done at SpaceX or Starlink. So Tesla has this span of capability of both miniaturizing product and also building products on kind of larger mechanical scale. So they're kind of in a sweet spot. So I think the Boeings, the other auto companies of the world would struggle to kind of shrink down and do something like this at scale. I'm not saying it's impossible. And I think the smaller device manufacturers, think of the smartphone manufacturers, you're going to see stuff. You're seeing stuff from Xiaomi, you're seeing stuff so forth. But when you pull the covers back, you really have to understand, what are they doing? Where do these parts come from? What is the capability of this prototype? What's your actual approach as a company to doing this? And again, I don't think 10 years from now that Tesla is going to be the only Tesla bot manufacturer, but it looks like they're going to get there with a number of firsts in terms of capability, scale, and at a cost structure that's competitive, so it can actually scale. This is what some things that people miss is the key to scale is not just buying a bunch of components and having a bunch of capacity in your factory. You have to build it at a price point that people would actually, they would have the elasticity to actually sell at that price. So, and I think the other things these companies don't have is they don't have the direct to consumer commerce systems. They don't have a SaaS. They don't have the SaaS capability set up to sell people software to do over the air updates. So when you start ticking and going down the line of like who could do this and who has the kind of the end to end solution, it's a very, very, very small list. And so, yeah, I don't have exact goals in terms of like, what the velocity is going to be to the factory yet, but I think some of these things will start to appear as they start revealing what they're doing from a manufacturing perspective.
So, Jeff, if I can do a quick follow on, can you give us your sense for build cost in 2024 and potential rights law learning rate for this kind of product? I think it's going to be super high.
Yeah, I mean, build cost is going to be a function of where they position this first. So in the first year, the capital that they have to build this thing is going to be under first year depreciation. This is going to be the highest cost and the lowest velocity that they'll ever build this robot in its history. So it's their COGS in the first year are probably going to exceed what they're selling it in for. But I believe what they'll be selling it in for very like local factory applications. So from a cost structure perspective, I mean, I have to sit down and actually do a model on this. I know some others have actually done this, but I think this is going to be in the few thousands of dollar range to build this end to end. This is, if you think about Tesla doing the compact vehicle and targeting, $17,500, $18,000 in COGS. I mean, I think the bot is going to be, a much smaller fraction of that. Just looking both at component mass, looking at component count, and then looking at how they're going to actually structure and build this in the factory. So for me to answer that question, I would actually need to see more details of what they're doing. And I would actually need to start thinking about the bill of materials of the product. But when I think about the full self-driving computer and I think about the optics that go in the vehicle, I've put that on, $1,200 or less for that whole computer, that whole inference computer, and that whole system. So the brain of this thing is not going to be overly expensive. And it's really going to come down to the mechanics and the power and the approach to charging, and what they need to do from the actuator cost, and then the what they need to do for this to meet reliability standards. So long answer, but I think there's some more details I would need to see, but much smaller than obviously a compact vehicle.
So
Okay, guys. Thank you. Chris, sorry, I think I need to close the space down. Sorry, did you have one last thing you want to say?
well, the only thing was the observation that if we said build cost was $10,000, this is where we're trying to promote this being a general sale of the hardware to everybody at almost cost plus. And I don't know, maybe it's an opportunity to talk to Jeff separately about that model that we're also looking at building so that we can figure this out in more detail.
Good. Thank you so much, Chris. So what a fantastic conversation. Thank you, everybody. We do have Cyberbulls Spaces every Tuesday. Please follow us. And then we do have a Cyberbulls video that we drop on my YouTube channel. This week, we're interviewing Gally Russell. So he's one of the OG folks, and he's got quite a new projects going on these days. So keep an eye out for that one. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.